Chapter 8 Dragonlands. Sometime later, Leaf tugged one of Dane's curls, pointing at two creatures who trotted toward them. Like Kitten, they had long reptilian snouts, slender paws like hands, and colorful scales. They were also like Dane's friend in that they were young dragons. The wings on their backs were tiny, incapable of bearing them in flight. The smaller one reached them first. Snow-white in color, it had black shoe-button eyes. It was 4 feet long from head to rump, with an extra 2 feet of tail. Its companion was as tall as Dane, with steel gray and black scales intermixed. Unlike the white dragon, this one was more sedate, and walked with slow, deliberate steps. "We're to take you to our grandsire," the white dragon told them, speaking to their minds, not their ears. "You're the first mortals we've ever seen. It's very exciting. I'm Icefall, only the elders call me Scamp. My cousin, well, she's really a third cousin twice removed. Her name is Steel Sings, only I call her Grizzle because she's so old." "Welcome to the Dragonlands," said Grizzle, mind voice grave. "Ignore Scamp. She has only 2 centuries. She doesn't know very much." "You've only 1 more century than me," accused Scamp. "You don't even have your wings yet either." Numer hid a smile behind one hand. Dane sighed. Perhaps it was just as well that Kitten still could not speak mind to mind, if all young dragons chattered. "Children should be seen, not heard." Grizzle cuffed Scamp, then looked at Dane and Numer. "Follow us, please." She led the way with composure. Scamp frolicked around them, asking questions non-stop, in spite of Grizzle's frequent orders to leave their guests alone. Scamp was convinced that humans spent their time fighting, and, sadly, Dane thought, she knew enough of the present state of things that it was hard to persuade her otherwise. Finally, Leaf stuck its head out of Dane's shirt and chittered angrily at her. The shock was so great the Scamp actually held her tongue for a moment before pelting them with questions about Darkings. "Is your grandfather the, king?" the mage asked as they turned downhill to walk beside a deep stream. "King?" asked Scamp, distracted from her pursuit of a butterfly. "What's a king?" "They rule mortals," Grizzle replied smugly. "The male ones, that is. The female rulers are queens." "Oh," was Scamp's comment. "But you'd always have to change them, wouldn't you? Since they're always dying." Dane bit her lip to keep from grinning. "It's true," she said gravely when she'd gotten herself under control. "Mortals must forever change leaders because they die. That's why we're called mortals." "I wouldn't like to be mortal," Scamp remarked wisely. "Uncle Moonwind has been teaching me about mortality. It sounds uncomfortable." "He's not really our uncle," said Grizzle. "Just like grandsire isn't our grandfather, exactly. He's our great... I don't remember how many greats. There are a lot of them. Grandfather. He's the oldest..." "No!" interrupted Scamp. "Moonwind, Rainbow, and Cometfern are older." "He's the biggest." "Now what are you looking at?" demanded the elder dragon. Scamp was staring at the sky. When she did not answer, Grizzle looked up. Uh-oh. An enormous blue-green shape crested the winds over a hill. Regally it glided toward them on huge bat-like wings boned in silver. "Is there a problem?" asked Numer. Dane saw that both dragons' scales bristled. "It's Jewelclaw," replied Grizzle. "He's not very nice." "He can't do anything," Scamp told them, but she trembled. Waves of pink, the color the kitten turned at those rare times when she was afraid, washed over her body. Grizzle, too, had acquired a rosy tinge, harder to see against her darker scales. "They're here to see grandsire, not him." The mature dragon lit on the ground and advanced, wings half extended. Until now, the only adult dragon that Dane and Numer had seen was Kitten's mother, a young female who had measured 20 feet from nose to hindquarters. This dragon was nearly 40 feet long, with a tail that was half again as long as he was. His scales were a deep, almost glowing shade of blue-green on his back, then emerald green on his belly. Like other dragons, this one had silver talons and teeth, in addition to the silver bones that gleamed inside the delicate hide of his wings. His eyes, emerald around slit pupils like a cat's, were cold indeed. Sparks and threads of fire similar to lightning jumped over his scales. His head crest was raised. "Who led mortals into the Dragonlands?" His voice was a roar in Dane's mind. "You two will find this to be far more serious than your usual pranks." He bridled, scales ruffling. The grass under his talons began to scorch. Grizzle jumped between Jewelclaw and the humans. "You can't touch them!" she cried. She was now an ice-smarting shade of pink, with no trace of gray, but she stood her ground. Scamp, also entirely pink, scrambled to stand next to her. Tiny sparks flared on both youngsters. "They are under Grandsire's protection." "Then Diamond Flame will answer to the dragon meat. Out of my way," Jewelclaw ordered, wings fanning. "They will be my captives." "No!" Scamp's voice was shrill but firm. "She's the one who's raising Sky Song." "Raising or imprisoning?" demanded the adult. Numer crossed his arms. "If you know anything about the young members of your race, you know that captivity is not an issue," he said mildly. "I do not believe there is a cage that could hold Sky Song if she wished to get out." Leaf, still on Dane's shoulder, extended its head to chitter angrily at Jewelclaw. After a moment's pause, Jelly thrust its head through Numer's collar and chimed in. "Must we tell Grandsire you took them from us?" Grizzle asked. "The old newt has gone senile," snarled Jewelclaw, "and I'm not the only one to object. I'm not finished with this." He took to the air, the backdraft of his wings making both humans and dragonettes stagger. "He is not senile!" Scamp shouted. If Jewelclaw heard, he gave no sign, flying off with hard, rapid wing beats. In a small voice she added, "Bet his mother was a wyvern." "Scamp!" cried Grizzle, shocked. "I don't care. He's rotten. He's always rotten. Come on," she told Dane and Numer, "before anyone else comes after us." When they reached a bridge that looked as if it had been spun from glass, the two dragons raced ahead, as if it were rough and sturdy wood. Dane and Numer, certain that mere humans might just slide off, were testing the bridge with their feet when crackling filled the air. Grizzle and Scamp halted in mid-span, raising themselves up on their hindquarters as kittens so often did. Jelly retreated inside Numer's shirt, while Leaf raised its head, looking for the cause of the disturbance. "There has been a change." The voice boomed in their minds all around them. "Grandsire, Jewelclaw came and yelled," cried Scamp. "I know it. He and the other separatists have been dinning my ears since our guests came through the portal. They have called the dragon meat." Scamp shrank inside her skin. "Uh-oh," Grizzle whispered softly. "Take them to the amphitheater," ordered the voice. "Do not enter the floor with them, mind. Sit among our people." Voice and presence faded from their surroundings. "Turn back," Grizzle told them, dropping to her fours. "At least it isn't far to go." Dane and Numer exchanged glances. They needed to talk. "May we get a drink?" asked the girl as they stepped off the bridge. "And I need to relieve myself." The dragons nodded. Dane stepped into a cluster of bushes to empty her bladder, first making sure her urine wouldn't run into the water. Finished, she joined Numer. They crouched beside the stream to drink and wash their faces. "What do you think?" asked the mage softly. "We have to go. We can't force dragons, only persuade," she reminded him. Scamp and Grizzle looked down at them from the top of the stream bank. "Are you finished?" Grizzle inquired. "It's a bad idea to keep a dragon meat waiting." Grizzle led them uphill from the bridge, following a broad track through knee-high grasses. When they crested the hill, they stood on the uppermost edge of a deep, tiered bowl in the earth. It was too regular to be natural, though grass flourished on the tiers. The floor of the amphitheater and the long ramps that cut it into eighths were bare earth, beaten and gouged by centuries of pressure from dragon paws and talons. At the far end of the giant oval was the only other exception to the grass carpet, a heap of glistening blue stones that was piled around the arena's rim. Each tier was dragon size, big enough to contain even the largest of them when they crouched on all fours. A number of dragons were already present. Jewelclaw, for one, was installed near the western ramp. Miniature lightning still played over his blue-green scales. He glared at them and returned to whatever he was saying to a 60-foot dragon whose scales had the white glimmer of pearl. As Jewelclaw spoke, bursts of fire, Dane thought of heat lightning, came and went along the bigger dragon's hide. Grizzle saw what the girl was looking at. The pearly one? That's Moonwind, the dragonette explained. She's one of the oldest. Her grandson Summerwing was the last dragon to willingly visit the mortal realms. That was before the Dragonmeet put a ban on visits. Stay away from Moonwind, Scamp said bluntly. She isn't even nice to people she likes. Just how old is this dragon? Asked Numer. Scamp cocked her head, blinking. 55 centuries, I think. 59, Gristle corrected her. Come on, this way. She started down the ramp, headed toward the arena floor. Your grandsire said you weren't to come with us, Dane said quietly, watching the adult dragons. They were huge creatures whose scales blazed with color, some of them 20 or 30 feet longer than Moonwind. The girl didn't know if their kind formed lynch mobs, but there was enough mob feeling here that she didn't want to take any chances. Busy watching the larger dragons, she didn't see the 7 young ones until they swarmed around the humans, curiosity in their eyes. One was nearly as small as Kitten, still unable to use mind speech. Others were as big, or bigger than, Scamp and Grizzle. Behind them, walking majestically, as befitted their age, came a handful of dragons 15 and 20 feet long, the length the Kitten's mother had been, adolescents. We'll all escort you, Grizzle announced proudly. The humans were swept along by young dragons, unable to protest across the beaten earth of the arena floor. The price of their escort was a hail of questions about the mortal realms. Dane left Numer to answer. She was counting the adults present, 33 thus far, when the air exploded to her right. Where there had been nothing but empty space a moment ago, a 60-foot black dragon crouched. Aunt Nightbreath! Cried Grizzle. You're not supposed to materialize so close to everyone else. Oh, tut, the dragon replied, coolly amused. I haven't fouled anyone in a materialization since I was your age. There was more than a hint of wicked glee in her eyes as she added, I was in a hurry. This may be my only chance to see humans before these 2 are made into fertilizer from Moonwind's rose bushes. The young dragons protested her cynicism. Dane reached out instinctively, and Numer took her hand. He kept it as they reached the center of the Dragonmeet floor. Their escort remained with them when they stopped at last. 3 dragons appeared on the highest part of the arena. The blast of air caused by their arrival made the humans stagger. Dane gulped and clutched Numer's hand tighter. All of the newcomers were over 100 feet long. The biggest, whose scales were a pale, delicate green, was fully 120 feet long. That's Wing Jade, Scamp whispered, seeing where Dane looked. My father. Big, commented Leaf. Too big, squeaked Jelly, its head protruding from the V of Numer's shirt. We start, boomed a golden dragon directly across the amphitheater from the mortals. Diamond Flame is charged with ignoring the will of the Dragonmeet, and with permitting humans to enter the Dragonlands. Humans, the question is asked. Why have you come here? You should do the talking, Numer told Dane softly. You are Kitten's guardian. Dane was about to reply when a mind voice yelled, No one cares what they want! Kill them! Looking around, the girl saw a mottled black and white dragon who sat up, balanced on his back legs. Kill them and bring Skysong home! Slowly he fell back to his fours. Nearby, a second dragon reared onto his haunches. Our law bids us to first hear what they have to say. Moonwind sat up. They and their defenders lost their right to claim justice under our law when my grandson was murdered by their kind. Look at them. Already they cause trouble here. Already they try to seduce our young away from us. We aren't seduced, cried a younger dragon hotly. They're new. They're different. We could learn from them, except you and your crowd have closed minds. Silence! Roared Moonwind. Dane and Numer cringed away from the force of her rage, while the young dragon who had spoken clawed at his muzzle. Now you've done it, whispered Grizzle to the gagged youngster. You'd better hope that she takes the silence off you before you get too hungry. If you felt the humans were not to be treated with under our law, Sister Moonwind, you should have amended the law in the 4 centuries since your loss, snapped a new adult. You know as well as I that all changes in law must be reviewed, debated, and considered. You cannot demand that it be changed here and now. Excuse me, said Dane, wanting to answer the initial question. The dragons continued to argue about legal issues. Red tinted the scales of most present. Lightning, in sheets or threads, danced over more than a few. "Excuse me!" "Try again," murmured Numer. Blackfire glimmered around the hand he placed on the nape of her neck. She took a deep breath. "Excuse me!" she cried. Her voice, amplified by the mage's spell, thundered in the bowl of the arena. Dane winced and used a quieter tone. "All we want to do is go home. That's it. We don't like being here any more than you want us. So if you could take us back to the mortal realms, we're quits." "No one asked you." Jewelclaw did more than sit up. He stepped onto the ramp and began to walk down toward them. Balls and rails of lightning raced around his hide as it turned a deep crimson, the color of dragon rage. "You humans! How could we have allowed you to continue to exist? With your murderous hearts, your waste, and your noise. It's time to scour the mortal realms clean. We can start with you." "You dare." Numer took his hand from Dane's back. Suddenly it was hard for the girl to breathe. She stepped away from him in the sudden bloom of his power. "Do you think we fear you, mortal?" the black and white dragon asked as he stepped onto the ramp behind Jewelclaw. "No human can face down a dragon." A burst of wind threw Dane back. Moonwind had vanished from her station, to reappear on the beaten earth of the floor. Numer handed jelly to Scamp, ignoring the Darking's unhappy cries, and advanced on Moonwind. With each deliberate step that he took, fresh powers shivered the air around him, as if he gathered magic like a cloak. Dane gave leaf to Grizzle and unlaced her overlarge shirt, looking at the pair of smaller dragons on the ramp. Her skin was clammy and tingling with fear, her knees weak. She wished passionately that she knew more about dragons. Swiftly she reviewed forms she could take. A big one might slow her down, make her an easy target. A falcon's claws and beak could make an impression, and she would be fast. "There are mortals who may battle us on an equal footing." The speaker was a lean, knobby dragon who sat in the lowest tier. He did not bother to rise on his haunches. His green, red, blue, and yellow scales were pale, as if coated in dust. The two on the ramp halted. Even Moonwind looked at him. "Not many, but some. Your coterie has chosen to ignore that which does not add to your overweening selfishness in regard to which species have importance and which ones do not. Or are you merely stupid? I never could decide which it was, though perhaps I should have." "You do not understand the matter, Ancestor Rainbow," snapped the black and white dragon. Pale eyes swept over Dane as the elderly dragon looked in the direction of Jewelclaw and his companion. Seeing no pupils, she realized that Rainbow was blind. "Do I not?" he asked, voice mild. "Well, you are entitled to your opinions, Riverwind, however foolish they may be. I, too, am entitled to my opinion, which is that I grow weary of your bad manners. Leave the dragon meat." The black and white dragon reared. He clawed at the air with his forepaws, screeching so high and so loudly that Dane felt a pressure like thumbs in her ears. His screech dwindled rapidly, as did he, until he vanished from sight. For a long, still moment there was no sound in the arena. Dane was taking a deep breath when all the dragons spoke at once, mind voices blending into a wordless roar in her mind. She heard one voice clearly, Jewelclaw's. "The humans are mine!" He trotted down the ramp. Moonwind raised a forepaw and unfurled her immense wings. Numer faced her, the air rippling and bending visibly where it touched him. Dane jumped, taking Goshawk shape as her feet left the ground. Her clothes dropped, empty. With a screech she sped toward Jewelclaw. "Enough!" said the crackling mind voice that had spoken to Dane and Numer near the bridge. Jewelclaw froze in his tracks. "When did my personal invitation to guests of my clan become a matter for every wing and claw in the Dragonlands to discuss and interfere with?" What Dane had thought was a huge pile of blue stones uncoiled and walked leisurely to the amphitheater floor. Diamond Flame, grandsire, was a dragon over 80 feet in length from nostrils to rump. While she could see larger dragons, none had a presence that made the air hum as he approached Moonwind and Numer. Dane kept a wary eye on Jewelclaw as she drifted overhead. Diamond Flame's scales were a shiny blue so dark as to be nearly black, picked out with flecks of gold and violet. A golden crest rose from his broad forehead and swept down to his shoulders, lending him a stern, crowned aspect. His large indigo eyes glittered with intelligence. "I understand your grief for your grandson, Moonwind, but only to a point. With no law passed by the dragon meet, I am entirely within my rights to welcome my grandchild's guardians to my home. It should not matter if they are human, dragons, or dragonflies. They are my guests, and no business of the dragon meet." "Ancestor Rainbow, I demand a ruling," hissed the pearl-scaled dragon. "Humans in the Dragonlands are no matter of personal choice, as Diamondflame has said, but of the will of the dragon meet. I vote to dump them into the sea of sand and let them cook." "Will the dragon meet now tell each dragon what guests to have, what to read, when to have children?" Diamondflame wanted to know. "I am within my rights, the ones granted to me and to every dragon by the Golden Dragon meet, to accept the visit of the guardians of my grandchild, without certain meddlers getting involved." "Now he calls meddlers those who wish only to see dragonkind return to power in all the realms," cried Jewelclaw. "Have you old and conservative ones turned to wyverns and salamanders?" "Humans or no human, I must say that I have not heard such insolence from the young in the last 1,000 years as I have heard today," said the one called Rainbow. Slowly he lowered himself from his grassy seat and walked over to Diamondflame. "I will judge now." He sat on his haunches and rose up, many-colored scales tightening over his knobby, fragile-looking skeleton. Slowly, as gracefully as a dancer, he stretched out enormous, nearly transparent bat wings. The sun glinted off the silvery bones within them and painted glowing light over the old dragon. "I ordain as Rainbow Windheart, governor of the dragon meet, oldest of the fire folk, with 100 centuries under my wings. By the compact of the god wars and the vote of the golden dragon meet, I speak for all of us until the day comes that I am taken back to Mother Flame." Settling a bit, he turned those blind eyes on the blue-green dragon. "Out of my sight, Jewelclaw. If I see you before a century has passed, I shall not be so kind again as I am right now." He passed under Dane's tail feathers on his way from Rainbow to the younger dragon. Jewelclaw dodged the bolt with a snarl and jumped into flight, lunging at the girl Goshawk. Something, not Jewelclaw, clutched her tightly. She felt squeezed, as if she had turned to icing in a pastry cook's tube. A strangled cry burst from her lips. She could feel herself dropping as her eyes went dark. When she opened them again, she lay on the ground, fully dressed, staring at the sky. "The only way dragons can live together is to vow to keep their muzzles out of one another's private lives." The mind voice was Rainbow's. He sounded close by. "When we wrote our laws at the Golden Dragon meet, we made sure of that. When I spoke in my office as governor, they could not argue, under the laws of that same meet." 2 inkblot heads stretched into her vision, one over her left eye, one over her right. Leaf squeaked, "Awake now?" The next faces Dane saw were those of Grizzle and Scamp. Over their heads, within a heartbeat's time, she saw Numer, his dark eyes worried. Behind him, the great blue dragon peered down at her. "What happened?" she asked, blinking. Scamp moved out of the way. Into the space she had filled in Dane's vision came the muzzle and blind eyes of Rainbow. His mind voice sounding like wind-tossed leaves, he said, "Forgive my lack of precision in grabbing you out of harm's way, Godborn. I allowed Jewelclaw to upset me. What you felt was dragon magic, nothing more." "I'm glad it was nothing more." Dane felt oddly peaceful. "Think how upsetting it might be to get squeezed from a shape, like milk from a teat, by something big." "Is she all right?" Numer asked the blue dragon, worried. "Not damaged?" "She seems well enough now," was Diamondflame's reply. "You don't know her as I do. She's never this philosophical about surprises." Reaching out, the blind dragon pulled Dane into a sitting position, his grip gentle. "My bones are all wobbly," she confided to him in a whisper. Looking around, she saw that many of the adult dragons had left. "Where'd everybody go?" "Where they would have been if Moonwind and her separatists had not chosen to meddle in business that was not theirs," said Diamondflame. "They have gone home." Ancestor Rainbow ruled that your visit, concerned as it was with returning my grandchild, was a matter for my clan alone. The blue dragon reared, towering over the girl. Numor and Rainbow steadied her as she got to her knees, then her feet. "Who will help me convey these mortals out of the Dragonlands?" asked Diamond Flame. The young dragons, who had remained, clamored to go. When he looked down his muzzle at them, they silenced instantly. "Those of you who can fly are too small. The rest of you cannot fly at all, and fly we must. You will remain here and mind Ancestor Rainbow." Dane's mouth twitched as Scamp grumbled, "You never do anything interesting." "I will come with you." One of the few adults remaining, a grey and gold dragon 56 feet in length, came over to them. She was an elegant creature, slender, without looking at all fragile. "I am Wingstar. Your Sky Song is my grandchild. The least I can do is bring her humans back to her." "Climb onto us," ordered Diamond Flame. "I believe the dragon meat is done." He was right. One by one, the dragons were vanishing from the arena tiers. Only the youngsters and Rainbow stayed. Leaf went to Dane, Jelly to Numor. Once the humans had settled the Darkings into their favored riding spots, around Dane's neck and inside Numor's shirt, Wingstar sank low to the ground. "I will take you, Waren's daughter. You do not appear to have so many bony angles to you." Dane grinned at Numor and climbed onto the female dragon, settling in front of her wings. Numor had to ascend Diamond Flame's foreleg to perch on the blue dragon's back. "Hold on to my crest," ordered Wingstar. "It won't hurt me if you tug." Under her legs, Dane felt powerful muscles flex. "Wait!" she cried, remembering something. The dragons, Numor, and the Darkings stared at her. "When we came through last time, more me, but both of us for a while got fair sick. We need to tell you—" "Nothing," interrupted Diamond Flame. "You were brought here by lesser gods, not by dragons. You will not become ill in the least." Disliking the slur on her parents, Dane muttered, "Pardon me." Leaf giggled under her ear as the flap of immense wings blew her hair into her eyes. She closed them tightly as the dragons leaped up and forward, soaring into the air. Wind buffeted her. Opening her eyes, she saw that Diamond Flame was in the lead, taking them into a cloud bank. Dane shivered. It was cool and clammy, and she couldn't see. Feeling a tickle on her cheek that had to be Leaf's hat, she asked, "Still fun?" "More fun," the Darking replied. "You have a happy nature, little one," she grumbled. Up the dragons climbed, flying a corkscrew pattern through the clouds. Dane sent storm wings only a few moments before they came upon them, but as before, she recognized at least one, and very likely 3, presences among them. When the dragons emerged in clear, very cold air, Barza, Habek, Rakash, and their followers awaited them. All the immortals were armed. "You have interesting friends," remarked Wingstar. "If you don't mind, we will go with you to the mortal realms." Barza's voice sounded odd in the thin air. "We have business to settle." "I will not wait if you fall behind," Diamond Flame warned them. The Stormwings grinned, steely teeth glinting, as they took up positions to the rear and sides of the dragons. Rakash was the only one to glide between them. "Is this wise?" Dane asked. "Ozorn's folk outnumber you almost 4 to 1. "Since when are Stormwings wise?" he called, and laughed. Diamond Flame and Wingstar began their descent, gliding in a broad spiral that carried them into the clouds once more. Clammy, damp fingers brushed the girl's face and wound in her hair. Grey fog blinded her again. More fun," commented Leaf. They broke through the clouds. She expected to see Dragonlands or desert. What lay below was a tangled web of barns and gardens, and a sprawling complex of grey stone buildings tucked behind high walls in front and low ones behind. From the high walls, the land sloped down a green, uncluttered expanse before reaching tree groves around low-lying temples. On the far side of the groves lay a vast city flung on both sides of a broad river. They were over the capital and royal palace of Tortle. Dane frowned. The voices of the people filled her mind, but they were not tense or wary, as they had been when Port Cain and the surrounding areas were under attack. Shaping her eyes to those of a raptor, she examined palace and city. Soldiers were everywhere, afoot, on horseback, or patrolling the river, but she saw no fighting, and a great deal of rebuilding. People were hard at work all over the palace grounds, too, piling debris for wagons to carry away. There were patrols on the walls and within the palace grounds, but nowhere did she find evidence of the enemy, except for 2 large prison stockades that lay east of the palace. The dragons circled high above the palace. Their storm-wing escort did the same. "Why come here?" Numer shouted to Diamond Flame. "Sky Song is at Port Leggan." "Why are we here?" asked Wing Star, mind voice dry. "You guided us, Diamond Flame, and I too thought you would take us to our grandchild. I don't even see an army in this place." "The god of the duck moles is here," said Diamond Flame. "I want to know why." Wing Star stared at the blue dragon. "Broadfoot? In this city?" "On the other side of the world from his mortal children," Diamond Flame replied grimly as Numer and Dane exchanged looks, "involving himself in mortal affairs." "How do you know all this?" the mage asked loudly. "I'm a dragon," came the haughty reply. "My power tells me a great many things you were blind and deaf to." Silver glittered in front of them, condensing very slowly as Broadfoot appeared. Dane reached for him before she remembered where they were. The duck mole was thin, his eyes sunken. "What's happened to you?" she cried. "You look terrible." He clapped his bill gently in a duck mole laugh. "I overestimated my ability to contain malady. It will not break free of me, but it fights." His mind voice, the only way the animal gods could speak in the mortal realms, sounded weak. "This is incredible!" boomed Diamond Flame. "What possible interest have you in the affairs of humans?" The duck mole snorted. "Have you dragons shut yourselves off so completely from affairs in the mortal and divine realms? Can you not feel the battle that is raging? Read the chaos currents around you." "Humans and their wars," snapped Wing Star, but Dane heard doubt in her voice. "If she overturns the mortal and divine realms, how long do you think it will be until she turns on the Dragonlands?" Broadfoot wanted to know. "You have made them separate from the divine realms, but you share a common border with them, and Iwase has nothing but appetite. Even when fed to gorging, she hungers still." "Would you dragons mind setting down for a moment?" asked Numer. "I would like to learn what the situation is here." "And I would like to talk to you, Duck Mole," said Diamond Flame, guiding down to light on a broad expanse before the palace wall. Dane saw the soldiers' bows follow them down. The catapults on the walls were being turned in order to dump rocks and liquid fire on the dragons if necessary. She crossed her fingers and prayed that none of the defenders would lose control. She had the feeling that Diamond Flame and Wing Star would have little mercy for human error. Looking over, she saw Numer talking into a small fiery globe on his palm. He'd opened a speech spell to one of the mages below and was explaining matters, talking with a speed only he could manage. When the dragons settled on the bare earth, a gate in the wall opened and 2 people came riding out. One, mounted on a horse and wearing chainmail, was unmistakably a knight, albeit older than most of the knights on active duty. His long-haired companion wore the brown tunic and trousers of the Queen's riders, and rode a mountain pony. Dane waved. She knew Duke Gareth the Elder and Bury, a commander of the riders, almost as well as Numer did. "They're friends," she told Wing Star as the female extended her forelegs, raising her chest and the girl higher in the air. "It's all right." "They may well be friends, but do they know that we are?" The female sank down again. Once she was close enough to the ground, Dane slid off her back and went to their welcoming committee. Numer caught up with her as Diamond Flame, Wing Star, and Broadfoot turned their backs to everyone else and spoke mind to mind. Tugging an earlobe, Duke Gareth eyed the dragons. "I had thought that I was past being shocked by your companions," the king's uncle said. "Clearly I was mistaken." "You should have seen where we got them," Numer informed him, shaking hands with Bury. "Where's the Queen? For that matter, where's the enemy?" "Gone, except for our prisoners." Dismounting from her pony, Bury came to give Dane a hug.
They scrambled out of here half a day before a relieving force from the Yamini Islands came in. Just pulled up stakes and vanished. We still maintain our forces on alert, however, the Duke told them. Just in case the enemy attempts something crafty, the army is camped throughout the royal forest and between here and Port Kane. Thea took a picked force and some mages and went south on some of the Yamini ships, Beery told them. They're going to try to break the siege at Port Leggan. Dane gasped. There's a relief fleet coming down from the Copper Isles. They'll be caught betwixt and between. I'd ask how you know, except anybody can tell you've been strange places, the little Khmer remarked, looking at the dragons. We'll have to catch up with Her Majesty, then, Nimmer said. You're certain everything is well here? Duke Garrus smiled. Enough that you can go to them. We are well situated. You know that Her Majesty would not have left us vulnerable. No more than she'd go if she thought there was still work to do here, added Beery. Dane looked at the dragons and the duck-mole. Will you take us to the Queen? She asked. They're at sea on their way to Port Leggan. The Badger and Goldstreak are with them, added Broadfoot. He had ended his secret conference with the dragons. We will do more than convey you to her, said Wingstar. Broadfoot has told us enough that my mate and I have decided to help you and our grandchild fight. Do you think your fellow dragons might be concerned enough about the danger from Owasse to fight on our side as well? Numer asked hopefully. If you are prepared to wait a few decades for them to reach the decision, said Diamond Flame, mind voice dry. That is one reason why few of us will argue with a personal choice. Long-lived as we are, we still would die of old age before our peers would agree on anything. Numer winced. Please forget I asked. Barza glided down to join them, her elegant brows knit in a frown. Why do you gab here like pigeons? She demanded. Osborne is not here. Our people are not here. I needed to speak to the duck-mole, Diamond Flame said. You have spoken, have you not? Then let's find our battle, snapped Barza. We didn't come to admire scenery. Dane and Numer gave Duke Gareth and Beery a hasty farewell and climbed onto the dragons' backs once more. As they flew up, leaving the palace and the capital far below, Wingstar remarked, I see no reason for us to tire ourselves by flying all that way to their queen's ships, not if we can use the Spyro spell to transport all of us. Come, Stormwings, said the blue dragon. Let us keep our strength for our enemy. Up they flew until they disappeared into the clouds again.